Hi, my name is Alexander. In my previous video, ASP.NET Core Identity, we created server-side project where we implemented ASP.NET Core 8.0 Identity API, which provides the methods for user authentication and authorization, user and role management, password hashing, two-factor authentication, token-based authentication, claims-based authorization, and more. We created Net Identity DB Contexts class, which uses identity resources through the Identity DB Contexts interface. In this video, we will create Angular client-side application, which will use our server-side project with API.NET Core 8.0 Identity API endpoints for users' registration, authentication, authorization, and more. Let's start. Create a new Angular standalone project. Starting in Angular version 17, new projects are standalone by default. Upgrade Angular from Angular 17 to Angular 19. Upgrade to 18 first. Execute git stash just in case. Upgrade to Angular 19. Check version. We have Angular version 19. We will create the same project that we created in my video, Angular Authentication and Authorization Part 2. That is why I simply copied all the code under application folder from this project and pasted it into our current project. On the application folder, we have app component where we use lazy loading technique to load the login component. Login component under the login folder contains form for user registration and login. We use email and password for users registration and login. On the folder Common Validators, we have email validator to validate user's email, and password validator to validate password string in the login form and validate that in registration form the password in the password field matches the password in the confirm password field. Under the folder Superstore, we have four standalone components. Products, which is used to get the whole product list from SQL Server database. Computers, which is used to get the product list from computers department. Cars, which is used to get the product list from cars department. Cafeteria, which is used to get the product list from cafeterias department. After successful registration and login, the login component uses lazy loading technique to load the content component. In content component, we use router navigate to load products, computers, cars, cafeteria components by button click. Here we also use lazy loading technique. Also, we created HTTP interceptor. The JWT interceptor intercepts HTTP requests from the application to add the JWT authentication token to the HTTP authorization header and refresh token if the user is logged in. Based on the access token in authorization header, user receives access to the server-side resources. In addition to the tokens, interceptor adds some user information to every HTTP request. Try to compile application. Open terminal. Click Login. We have Login and Registration tabs. Everything works. In our previous videos, Angular Authentication and Authorization Part 1 and Angular Authentication and Authorization Part 2, we used our server-side project to authorize user and login. Now we have to use ASP.NET Core Identity API for authorization and login. Let's start our server-side application from my previous video, where we implemented ASP.NET Core Identity API. During login operation, user receives access token and refresh token. Interceptor appends tokens to every user HTTP request response. With valid access token, user gets access to the resources. When access token expires, user receives HTTP unauthorized response, code 401. Based on this error, interceptor should redirect user's request to a message refresh in ASP.NET Core Identity API, where user can get a new access token and new refresh token, as long as the current refresh token is valid and unexpired. So refresh token should have long lifespan, weeks or months. With the new access token, user can continue work with the resources. In the server-side project, ASP.NET Identity API provides all the methods for user authentication and authorization, user and role management, password hashing, two-factor authentication, token-based authentication, access token refresh, and more. To use this project, we have to change our client requests so that the requests match the signatures of the server-side methods of .NET Core Identity. In a client auth service, change the return type from promise to observable and remove async attribute from the methods and change URL in accordance with the signature required for the server-side methods. The first method is login. Here we provide email and password as HTTP parameters, but the server-side method requires that the email and password should be in the request body. The email and password should be in the request body. Change the login request in auth service and change the return object from promise to observable. Remove async. Change promise to observable. Change request to post and add parameters to HTTP request body. Add response login type to the types folder. In login component, change URL login to identity login. Add type response login to the response data. Update condition. Check response from login method in Identity API. In our client-side code, we have to change data.access to data.access token. Next method in authentication service is registration. Remove async, change promise to observable. Check server-side method for registration. Remove email and password from HTTP header and put them in the request body. Next method, refresh token. Refresh token should be in the request body, and the method is post. Also, we changed URL to identity refresh. Make some changes in the product base class. Update URLs for the methods. In a product component, update products class members, products ID and products type ID in accordance with the updated product interface. In authentication service, update methods and add update product method. Here I have changed promise to observable and updated URL in the methods. Now let's update product component methods. Add update product method. We updated authentication service and all the methods that we created in a previous video, Angular Authentication and Authorization Part 2. The updates are related to the different signatures that are used in ASP.NET Core Identity API. Update HTTP interceptor. Remove refresh token from HTTP header. With a valid token, user gets access to the resources. When access token expires, user receives HTTP unauthorized response, code 401. Based on this error, interceptor creates observable with the bool type. Authentication service subscribes to this observable and executes a method refresh token. It redirects user request to refresh method in authentication server, where user can get a new access token and new refresh token as long as the current refresh token is valid and unexpired. In a product component, we have to add updated product ID and add button for update product method. we can add a button refresh token to the content component, or the user can change access token anytime. Add class to common.css. Add button refresh token to the content component. In the server-side application, we have to add check connection method, which shows that server is up and running. Also, let's remove unnecessary statements. Start server-side application. Copy port number. In the authentication service, add the port number to URL. Compile and start client-side application. Check SQL Server. There are no users registered in the table users. Register user. User with email aa@can.com registered in database. Check SQL Server. User registered. Login. Test the methods. Get product. Add product. Check SQL Server. Product is added to SQL Server database. Update product. Check SQL Server database. Product is updated. Delete product. Check SQL Server. Product deleted from the database. Test refresh token method and check response. For the test purposes, let's change the code in refresh token method so that the client doesn't receive a new access token. To expedite the process, let's also add hard-coded user credentials. Start client-side application. Again. We see that user receives a notification, your session is expired. Do you want to continue? Click OK. But because user doesn't receive a correct access token, this notification will appear every time when user requests any resource from the server. It means that unauthorized user cannot get access to the resources on the server side. Correct the code and add the code to write access token to console. Delete register user. Start server-side application. Start client-side application. Login. Register user. Login. Press refresh token several times. Check console. we see that every time we received a new access token. Check that methods works. All the methods work perfectly, and user can get a new access token anytime by pressing the refresh token button. Finally, let's check the check connection method works. When server is down, this method should provide a notification about this. Simulate the server shutdown by closing the server-side application. Try to get products. We received a notification server is down. Any other request to the server-side application provides the same message. The check connection method works. Restart server-side application. Try get products. All methods work fine. That's all what I wanted to show you in this video. Angular 19 with ASP.NET Core Identity, where for the user registration, authentication and authorization, we used ASP.NET Core 8.0 Identity, API and points. Thank you for watching. If you are enjoying this content and would like to see more and support my channel, please feel free to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, have a good day, and bye.